Let's bring in Rami Khouri, journalism professor at the American University of Beirut. He joins us now via Skype from Beirut. Rami, quite remarkable scenes there in the centre of town. What do you make of this?
This is an important turning point in this whole uprising, revolution, as the protesters call it. A few days ago, there was a pretty clear movement towards forming a new government. Hassan Diab had picked 18 allegedly independent, technocratic people to become ministers. And then the protesters discovered that, in fact, 6 or 7 of these were very close to one of the political parties in the new government. And they were very upset. People were very upset that they thought they were being taken for a ride, that, in fact, this new government of alleged technocrats was really just a smokescreen for the old ruling oligarchic elite. And the arguments between them, as Zaina said, was about who was going to get the share of government portfolios that they expect. So the protesters were really upset. And then at the same time, about 2-3 nights ago, you had some small protests, just a couple of hundred people in Hamra Street. Hamra Street is like the Oxford Street or the Regent Street of Beirut. It's a very famous old commercial center. And the people, some demonstrators were out in front of the central bank, others were smashing bank windows and smashing a couple of ATM machines. And this seemed to have struck a chord with the political elite, that the banks were actually being hit as a symbol, because the banks have become a symbol for everything that's wrong in Lebanon, because people can't get their money in their own accounts. They're not allowed to take out all their money, or even much of it. I just went to the bank this morning and took out my weekly $300 and 500,000 Lebanese, which is around maybe $200 in Lebanese. You're allowed a certain amount every week to take out from your own account. So the protesters have gotten really angry, and the political elite has struck back. So this is a high tension moment in Lebanon, mainly frustration by all sides that we're getting nowhere. And in the meantime, as Zaina said, everybody is suffering. Ordinary people can't get their money. People are losing jobs. Prices are rising. And basic things that people have to do, like have medical operations or pay their children's education fees, they're having trouble, or they can't do it. So there's a real sort of existential fear among many people. In the meantime, daily life goes on. People go to work, people go to their religious centers, people go to school, but there's a lot of tension. And probably the big change in the last week has been the willingness of the authorities to use force on the street to break up demonstrators. The authorities say that they're just trying to stop these hooligans who are going out to cause trouble.
Yeah, you say that right at the beginning of that answer, you said that this is a turning point. In what way? I mean, apart from registering people's anger, and as you say, causing trouble, it seems that these protesters have come prepared for trouble. In what way is this a turning point then? What can this achieve?
Well, it's a turning point because I think it shows us the continually rising fear among both parties, the ordinary people who are out protesting and the political elite that is trying to maintain its hold on power using the formation of the new government, which is supposed to be a technocratic independent government, but using that to essentially cement and maintain the hold on government and power and privilege that they have had for decades and decades. So both sides are really worried about what's going on, and they want to try to achieve their own goals. The turning point is that there's been an escalation in both the protests, all of which are peaceful, except for a few occasional troublemakers who, and nobody knows if these troublemakers are sent by some of the political forces to stir things up, or if they're just a bunch of young kids who are, like in all situations like this, they go out and they destroy things. But both the demonstrators and the political elite are frightened, and they're acting in this way. But the new element is the willingness of the authorities to use force to, as they say, maintain public order. And of course, everybody wants to maintain public order. When bank machines were being smashed and bank facades were being glass facades were being smashed, that kind of scared a lot of people. And people were starting to worry, maybe even I'm not going to be able to get my $300 a week now if this goes on. But today's demonstration was supposed to be the culmination of a week of anger, as it was called, a week of rage. And people were coming in on buses early in the morning from the north and the south, from all over the country. So I would anticipate that we're going to see tomorrow some more large-scale demonstrations, peaceful demonstrations, as they mostly have been, and I wouldn't be surprised if they call a curfew or something, or they prevent demonstrations downtown, because this is really scaring people when you get this level of violence. Even though the numbers are relatively small, we're not talking of thousands and thousands of people who are shooting each other. You've got probably a couple of hundred people who are out on the front lines throwing stuff at the police, and then the police firing back. People also were upset by the manner in which the police have put down the demonstrations. 2-3 nights ago, about 50, 60 young people were arrested. There was videos of them being dragged in the street. They were taken to police stations and arrested for a couple of nights. People then went to the police stations and peacefully demonstrated outside, demanding to get these people out. A few reporters were beaten up, and they were in hospitals. They were filmed in the hospital. And again, none of this was earth-shaking stuff, but it was quite dramatic and relatively new, and that's why you're seeing what you're seeing now.
Professor, it's always good to talk to you. Many thanks indeed. Rami Khouri there in Beirut. Thank you for your insight. Aljazeera's Zaina Hodder is